Hello and welcome to Tabletop Oddity. My name is Jay and today I'm going back to my basic tabletop standard painting guides. So when I say basic tabletop standard painting guides, we're going to do Director Krennic today, and it's literally just I'm going to throw some colours on this miniature and then give it a wash and then maybe a very brief highlight. All in all, I'm not expecting to spend a lot of time on the miniature. The Lord and Savior Serasto, it would be, when he does his video, that'll be like amazing. This is like bottom tier. so just keep that in mind. I mean, it'll look okay on the tabletop, especially once you base it. Obviously, I'll show you a closer look once we've actually done it. But yeah, it's basic tabletop standard. I'm going to be using GW paints, and it's literally just so you can be like, oh, well, if I use these GW paints and I do this, it'll look vaguely similar to that. That's it. If at the end of the video you like the video, do that. And if you've not already subscribed, please consider doing that, as that also does help. So to get on with the actual guide, so to speak, is obviously you've got your grey plastic. I'm becoming very lazy in my old age. I'm not even removing the mold lines until after I spray it because when you prime it, it sort of seems to highlight the mold lines. So in this case, I'm using matte white from Army Painter. Obviously, I sprayed it outside. Don't spray it in your house unless you've got a garage or something like that. Yeah, white, pure white. You could go with Corax white with GW, but I just prefer the Army Painter white as it's pure white rather than a like grey. And then I'm going to take Eshin Grey from Games Workshop. Eshin Grey is like a very, 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 very dark grey. And we're going to put that on all the grey parts. So in this case for Krennic, I'm actually going to do his pants, his gloves, and when I say his belt and his holder, not the middle part of his belt, the buckle, we're not going to do that, but definitely his pants and his boots, his gloves. I actually also do his hair. Now, his hair I do a little bit like weirdly, but I'm really happy with the result in the end of it, so I'll tell you how I've done that. Yeah, so everything's going to go Eshin Grey, and then we're going to essentially black wash it. But before we do that, we'll move on to the next step, which I've temporarily forgot. What did I do after the grey? I did a lighter grey on his head. So I actually used, what's the name of this colour? Celestra Grey on his head. I think, yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe an in-between grey might have been better. Maybe like Administratum Grey or Mechanica Standard Grey, something like that. Like a mid-grey. I'm going to wash this with a brown because on pictures his hair is actually sort of like grey brown. So I thought I'd do it grey and then wash it brown, but I had to wash it like 3 or 4 times. Once we've done his head, the grey colour, his hair, we're going to do his face. I'm literally just using Cadian flesh tone here. Nothing special, you just whack it on his face. I always have a bit of difficulty with my vision. I can't really make the difference between his ears and where the hair ends and all that kind of stuff. So if I've made a mistake, just take a bit more care than I have. I'm trying to get this done quick for the video and then hopefully a battle report. The next part I'm going to do are the little like red and the blue on his like medal badge. I'm not sure it has like a standard name, and it's the thing in the Star Wars universe that shows what rank they are, and essentially Krennic's is red at the top and then blue at the bottom. Now when I primed this, I could make out each individual like square, but when I painted it I 100% couldn't, so I literally just blobbed in the colour where I thought, trying to leave the odd gap. And I'm not gonna lie, you can't, on the miniature that I've done, you can't really see it on the red part. It's sort of just like one line. And for the blue part, you can sort of see the white, but I've not necessarily covered it very well. This, for me, is the trickiest part because it's small detail. I couldn't really see it very well. It's pretty difficult if you're an amateur like I am. It'd be good if you had like a magnifying glass, but yeah, essentially for the red I'm using Mephiston red from Games Workshop. All these colours are Games Workshop, and for the blue I am using Macragge blue, but I think any like blue and red will be fine. I just try and be consistent across your miniatures. And then for the silver bits, which in this case we're going to do his belt buckle and his weapon, we are going to use Lead Belcher. Yeah, it's the darkest silver I think GW do, and I it's my favourite silver that they do. Just white that on his belt buckle, white that on his gun. His gun seems to be silver. I generally like to do my guns black, but when you have black gloves and black guns, it can be a little bit awkward. So in this case, his gun seems to be silver, so you're just gonna throw on some paint, and essentially that's all of the main colours done. the only thing we're going to do now is wash it in variety different styles and ways. So for his face, we're going to use the Ryklin Flesh Tone, GW's Flesh Wash. For his hair, I'm actually going to use Agrax Earthshade. Now I end up using several layers of Agrax Earthshade, and I end up throwing a bit of Nuln Oil on there. I just like to wash it until I get the colour that I actually want. And then for everything else, we're going to use a mix of Lamia Medium, water, and Nuln Oil. Basically, you want a really thin version of Nuln Oil. So I just maybe do like a third of each. So maybe a third Nuln Oil, a third water, a third Lamia Medium. You just want it really thin, and I'm just going to whack that absolutely everywhere except his face and his hair. So we're going to put this all over the white, all over his boots, all over the gun, everywhere. But you don't want it to necessarily pool up too much, because doing a shade on white can sort of make it look a little bit murky and a little bit muddy and a little bit gross, just a little bit dirty, I guess. So yeah, we're going to put that everywhere. You don't want this to pool in any of the recesses. You just want it to be like a nice even coat. But what I actually do is I use my finger to sort of rub off the excess on the highlights. You could use a bit of cloth if you wanted, because on the raised areas you don't really want it to be darker. You want that to be sort of pure white. It's a very tricky stage. Hopefully if you've used like a weak version of the shade, it won't look that bad by default, but we're going to highlight it up a little bit with white anyway. So let that dry. Once it is dry, what we're going to do is we're going to come back in with white, make sure all the raised areas are actually pure white rather than this grey. Just wherever you think it looks a little bit off. The white I'm actually using is White Scar, which is the layer version rather than Korax White. I don't know why, I like the consistency a little bit better because it's a layer paint rather than a base paint. So before I've fully called this done, I take Nuln Oil again, put Nuln Oil over the pants and the weapons and his hands. And I give another wash of his hair, just to try and give it that sort of browny grey look. I also very briefly go back in with the Cadian Flesh Tone just to touch up at things on his face, maybe like his, his nose and his cheeks, just to give it a bit of definition. But you really don't have to do that if you didn't want to. So that's it done. So that's it, like completely finished. Again, this is basic tabletop standard. And the way to improve if you want to go beyond this stage, it essentially is to highlight it better. White's a little bit trickier. You could actually, if you wanted, manually do the shading for the white, but I am far too lazy to do that. This video is essentially just like, if you use these GW colours, you'll get this kind of look. Now you could do the base, that'll massively improve it. I'm just a little bit lazy because I want to do all my bases at the same time. But yeah, it's basic tabletop standard. Takes me about an hour. It looks fine. If you want to improve it, you can highlight it with specific, edge highlighting, all that kind of stuff. But if you want a good, quick result, just put some colours on it, put some washes on it, and do a little bit of a highlight. I'm actually really pleased with his hair in the end of the day. Just using several different brown and washes over a grey sort of gives it that sort of grey brown hair, which sort of seems to be what the actor who plays Krennic has, whose name I don't know. Some of the details, I've got to say, the quality of the painting isn't that great, but hopefully that's not necessarily a problem. That's more me than your version will be better if you are a better painter than I am. Stuff like the little colours on the badge, Jesus, I can't make out the individual ones. I probably need like one of those massive magnifying glasses so I can thingy. But even if I had one of those, I'm not sure my hands can necessarily do exactly what I want them to do. I'm not a big fan of painting. My goal is get it done, get it look okay, get it on the table, get played. So that's what this is. If you enjoyed it, fair enough. If you I need really high quality painting, then there are actually dedicated painting channels out there. I am not that. I am more of a Legion dedicated channel. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, to be fair, when I look at it on the table, I'm going to be super pleased with that. Once I do his base, I think, yeah, that's Krennic. It looks like Krennic. It didn't take me very long. I'm happy. Nobody's going to be like, oh, you can't paint. That is awful. I actually, what was weird, I did my Boba Fett one and people complimented my Boba Fett one and I was like, why? It's just the colours with a wash. But that's the gist of this video. It's literally use these GW colours, well, because they're the colours I'm using. Use these colours, you'll get this result. It doesn't take very long. Do it in this way. It's sort of for beginners. And if you want to see possibly more of these, do consider supporting me on Patreon. I really want to start going with more of the hobby kind of view of Legion. So I want to do like the trilogy basically of chatting about the game, painting, bat reps, maybe terrain, depending on if I have inspiration and I need them for my bat reps and that kind of stuff. So there you have that. So have a beautiful day though. If you like this video, do like. If you want to share it to anybody who may be in your group who's got grey plastic, me normally being one of those, just send them the link. Go on, send it to them. And hello to the people who got sent the link. Subscribe, have a beautiful day, and goodbye.